Right, we were recapping over destroying your figure, your positions, okay? So just remember, when you're deciding on the pose that you're going to go for, you want to basically just start with kind of a stickman figure. You want to try and get some diagonal lines in there. You want to try and get a curve, okay, so that it doesn't look too static. And then you're just building the shapes of the body on top of that, okay? Just with little stickman bits to begin with, until you're kind of happy that the pose that you've got is the one you want to go with, okay? So we're just doing some warm-up sketches just now. So you can do away the same kind of ones that I'm doing, or you can do different ones, okay? But think, do you want them flying? Do you want them blasting at somebody? Totally up to you, okay? So I'll draw a few roughs, and then you can either use one of these if you want. So for instance, this one you might have them blasting. So just, again, your indication for these blasting doesn't need to be any more than stick fingers just now, okay? You just want to get the rough body shape in first to decide if that's what you're going to be doing. Okay, it really doesn't need to be any more than that at this stage. Okay, so just remember you've got your chest area, you've got your pelvis area, and this bit in between will bend. So if he's bending that way, the body will bend in and stretch there, vice versa. Okay, if you've got a line going down the way, chances are on this bit here you've got a line going up the way. Okay, because the body has to balance. But it kind of depends on what this figure's doing, but if you think about when you're running or anything like that, your body automatically balances. If your top end's going down one way, the bottom end will go the other way, just to make sure you don't fall over. Okay, so you can do that kind of pose. You can just probably do a straightforward flying pose, I guess. But if you're doing that, again, just try and make sure you've got lines that aren't straight in the basic pose. That will just help make it look a bit more dynamic and actiony, even if it's just a straightforward legs together flying pose. Okay, so any kind of pose you want. Like I said, you can do one where he's kind of blasting towards the viewer. Yeah, these are just your warm-up sketches just now, so don't worry about these too much. It's partly so you can decide on a pose to do, and partly just to get you warmed up, okay? Okay, so when you're looking at your characters, when you decide, you don't need anything more than these kind of stickmen figures, okay? So you can come up with your own pose, or you can just go with the one I'm going to do. And certainly with the costume, you're free to do whichever version of the costume you want, because there's so many variations on it. Okay, so I'm probably going to go with a pose with them kind of blasting towards. Again, I'm just going to start really sketchy. Get his head in, chest area, get his pelvis in. Might have this arm going down and being a fist probably, and we'll have this arm being the one that's blasting. Okay, so we'll kind of probably bend here and go around. We'll have his hand there. We'll do this leg coming forward, and this one just kind of hanging down a bit. Okay, so that's kind of all I'm doing from a starter bit, and everything just gets added on top of that. Okay, and you're basically just building it up in layers. So you've got your stick man, and you're just starting to add the basic shapes, okay? So your shoulders are just circles, everything else is kind of tube shaped. Okay, we're probably going to do is I'm going to have them blasting, so we'll need fingers. All you're doing is marking in roughly where all the body parts are going to be. Okay. And then once we've got our stickman and then our tubes all in position, we can start to add some proper body shape parts to it. I've probably done mine a lot darker than I would normally, just so that you guys can see the sketches, so I'll probably go over it with pen at some point to neaten it up a wee bit. Okay, so you're going to have your shoulders, and you want to get the underlying shape in first, because otherwise when you add the armour it's going to get a bit messy if the underneath part is wrong. Again, anybody that remembers when we were doing hands before, you've got a fist, the fingers actually curl in towards the centre, so rather than doing straight lines you want to make sure that they're kind of angling in like that a bit more. Okay, so you're going to have chest and your collarbone, your rib cage, and your stomach muscles are going to go in here. Okay, and then probably flesh out the legs and the knees a wee bit more. Remember, because this is just the sketchy stage, it really doesn't matter how many mistakes you make here. A lot of these lines, if you were doing it properly, would just get rubbed out anyway. You're just building it up. Remember on the legs as well, that when you've got your knees and muscles, that the muscles are higher on the outside and lower on the inside like this, but when it comes down to your ankle it's the opposite. Okay, so the muscles here are higher, your ankle is lower on the outside. Okay, so just try and think of it as an opposite thing. Obviously it's reversed on the other leg, but it's higher on the outside at the knee, lower down by the ankle. Okay, we should probably make the hand a bit bigger than normal because it's going to be closer to us, so we want to kind of emphasise that a wee bit. And especially with comic drawings, you can get away with making things exaggerating proportions to make them a bit more dynamic. Okay, but again at this stage, remember, all you're doing is just sketching in where things are going to go. Okay. And obviously, because of the angle we're drawing this one at, the forearm is going to cover part of this muscle here. So part of it's going to be hidden behind. Although to be honest, I'm probably going to do a big blast anyway, so I'll probably not draw in most of what's behind that circle. Okay, right, so we've probably got the basic shape down. How are we doing for time? Plenty of time, fine. So once you've got your basic shape down, with you know roughly where all the muscles are going to be, the layout of your figure, this is probably when you need to decide which costume version you're doing, because otherwise it's going to get a bit messy if you chop and change it. So like I said, you can do comic book versions, you can do any of the movie versions, you can do any of the cartoon versions, it really doesn't matter. when I was growing up there was kind of one costume for about 30 years, and now it changes every other week, so totally up to you which version you go with. Or feel free to make up your own slightly different version if you want. So most of the costumes have got a centerpiece. They used to always be circular, but now they're kind of almost a Superman-esque triangle type shape. Certainly with the movie ones, they're more realistic in terms of how it's all put together. So there's a lot of joints. So again, that's a good reason to have your anatomy correct underneath, because you're basically building around all of these muscles. Okay, so even if you've got like a big, so we do a version with a big plate off his shoulder, you kind of need to have the shoulder underneath. It's not going to be in your finished drawing, but you need to kind of know the position of that to add this bit on properly so it sits in the right place. Because even these lines I'm doing just now probably won't be a lot of my finished lines. These are just me working out where most things are going to go. Okay, so for the mask, like I was saying at the beginning, just work out a normal face. Okay, so just get your rough head shape first. Make sure you have a line down the middle and a line across the centre for the eyes. And then you're spacing the eyes out, so it's kind of, at least the version I'm doing, has got like little square peak holes that his eyes are behind. The mouth will be down where the mouth line would obviously be. There's a change in the armour for the cheek. But I'm going to make that face a bit longer. See, there's umpteen variations on this now, but generally there's either a mouth line or a mouth hole. You've got kind of squarish eyes. Normally have lines in with the costume splits for the cheekbones. There's almost a hairline as well for a lot of the versions. These in, you don't need to worry about it being exact at this point. Okay, so the helmet's something like that, depending on which version you're going with. A lot of them have got neck braces, for want of another word I guess, that kind of protect around the neck, so you could add one of those. And you've got an area for the muscles as well that are kind of stomach muscles that are sectioned off. And quite often there's little holes in the armour where the different bits socket into each other. In the comics it didn't used to worry about that at all, it didn't have to actually work as a real bit of armour. but since the movies have come along, that's all kind of changed, and it kind of needs to look as if all the bits could move around each other and intersect. Okay, so again, you've got the muscles down the side of your body, and kind of wrap around and hold your abdominals in place. So quite often there's a belt area there of some sort, even on Iron Man. So again, when you're doing the legs, like I said in the comics, there used to be kind of skin tight costume, but now there's armour that needs to sit out and above, so you need to make sure your legs are reasonably accurate before you start adding armour, because your armour is going to sit and extend out past the actual lines that you've got in for your body. Same way, knee joints. Okay, so they're kind of going to stick out a wee bit. And to be honest, I'm kind of making up parts of the costume here now anyway, because I've never actually drawn one of the movie costumes. I'm going to probably make this blasting, so I don't want too much of that there. I'm going to have his repulsor ray in the centre of his hand. So we'll probably just do these as shadows. So I've just rubbed out my lines so I can kind of still faint to see them where I had them. But I don't actually want to draw the whole hand in anymore, so I'm kind of going to go with an effect from the blast, which is lighten it all up, so you kind of maybe just see the edges of his fingers, so something like that. And you can do some great big power blast all around it. Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to redraw this leg a wee bit, it looks a bit off. It'll be a bit bigger because it's coming closer to us, it's a bit small. Okay, I'll probably do for the sketch part of it, I think. So let me just grab what I normally actually do at this point. Well, quite often I draw in blue line, but it's hard to show here. I would actually rub all of this out and have really faint lines. But just so everybody can see what I'm still doing, I won't do that this time. But a lot of artists will actually do that, they actually rub all this out just enough that they can see the faint underlines and then work on that. You can also print stuff in blue line these days and just actually reprint it. And then you can keep your original drawing as well. So all those lines I put in for the shoulder earlier, I'm not actually going to use them now. That means that I can make sure that I've put bits that I do want to use in the right places. So I'm going to need to buy new pens. These have all been sitting on my desk for ages, unused, and have all dried up. Okay, we'll probably do about 5 more minutes with me inking, and then we'll swap over to Zoom and see what everybody's been doing. And remember, because his armour's 3D, you feel free to put some shadows and bits of armour that sit over the top of other bits. Okay, I'm probably just going to leave mine at that just now.